Hi, everybody. Mary Meyer with Healthy, Happy, Wise, Wealthy, here with Kara Stoltenberg. She is host of Stepping In with Kara podcast. She has a coaching business that she's been doing for a very long time. And I have worked with her personally for years. In seems like in lifetimes past at this point. But since our podcast, so far, the first 10 episodes, Erica and I were realizing we talk so much about listening and breathing are topics that came up, whether we were talking about physical health, mental health, about leadership, about entrepreneurship, all these different things were coming up about listening. And for you, that is one of your signature topics, which you call holding space for people, which is very, very active listening, basically. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear more about that. And tell us a little bit about because your podcast is also a really good example of that holding space model.
Yeah. So, hi, it's so good to be back. I'm so happy to be here talking about listening. It's one of my favorite topics, and breathing is one of my favorite topics as well.
I love to breathe.
Me too. So good. It's like so life-giving.
So, exactly. It's like
yeah. So I'll start just even by saying my podcast title. I 7 years ago was in a hit and run bicycle accident, and I was left on the side of the road unconscious to die, as you know, Mary.
Right.
And, I have spent the last 7 years recovering and fighting for my life and fighting to have more life within the life I'm living currently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a long process. And it's one of those things that it's never going to go away. It's certainly changed in the last 7 years. But along that journey, there have been spaces that have been very weary.
Right.
And one of the things I started noticing was that people have a very hard time just stepping in to whatever you're going through, which is why I named my podcast Stepping In with Kara, because I wanted to create a space in which, number one, I'm holding space for other people's stories. So I'm modeling what does it look like to just be with someone and let them just tell their story and hold space for them without the need to have answers, solutions. Like, you don't need to fix it. You can just be present with them, comfortable with emotion. And that I want to come back around to that, but I don't want to get too far off track. But that is one of the pieces of holding space, being comfortable with someone having emotion. And emotion can run the gamut, right? From sadness to anger to anxiety or fear, guilt. There's so many ways a person can feel. And again, to not feel like you have to have the answer, but to just be with someone and be in it with them. Yeah. And so, there's a lot to that skill. And I think that it's unnatural. And that's why we're here. We're going to talk about it today.
Right. Well, absolutely. And to give everyone a background, you were the very first, the first episode of this podcast I had you on. And in part, even when I was deciding what to do with this podcast, it was to give people a platform who I know have an exceptional amount of wisdom for the world who aren't internationally or nationally known. So of course I was thinking about you during that. And just as a backstory, we're not going to go into all the things today that we worked on, but I had my history, and we aren't going to go into this today. We will go into it more later on, but I want to give people just kind of a context of everything that you know so much about so many things. And so I know I stand here today as someone who probably wouldn't be alive had I not worked with you. And that's just a reality, because I had at that point, I know when I started working with you, I knew you a little bit before that even, but I had 7 children, 4 were adopted, and I had Lyme's disease without knowing it for I don't know how long, let's say 14 years before I came to you. And in a matter of a couple minutes, you you through the different testing that you had, you realized that's what it was. And we spent a year detoxing on that, and 2 years detoxing everything physical. And then we started detoxing emotional stuff along with that. And so this is where I first learned the terms holding space. I had never heard that before, but I also experienced it with you to the point where it was a surreal spiritual experience actually to be in the room with you. And you're my friend even, but like when you're with you in a setting where you're working with you one-on-one, it is like you really do feel like there is nothing else in the world going on. You're not thinking about anything else. You are so tuned in to the person in front of you in a way that I've rarely have ever seen anyone do. So I want to give that as a backstory to all of this also.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and in addition to that, that's when I learned the way that there is such a connection between physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, everything is so tied together in our bodies. So if we're going to be healthy, we have to have an understanding of listening to other people, listening internally to ourselves. We need to be able to listen, to the larger, to God, universe. We have to have an ability to listen and all those things, but we rarely do in a way.
Right. And well, what you just touched on there is what I almost got sidetracked on. So now I'm going to come back around to it, because one of the reasons I think it's hard culturally for us to step in with people to really hold space is because we're not in the habit of doing it for ourselves.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're not comfortable allowing yourself to feel sad or angry or afraid, it will be very hard for you to hold space for someone who's sobbing. If you can't go to sad within yourself and allow that emotion to course through you, it's very hard to be comfortable with someone else being sad. And what does everybody say on your podcast? I don't know if people cry, but most of the time on my podcast, people cry. And when they do, what do they say? I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry that I'm crying.
I sometimes still say that. I'm like, Oh my gosh, you never need to be sorry. Like, if we just give emotion a little bit of space. In fact, 2 things about emotions. 1, a true emotion that is just happening in the moment takes about 60 to 90 seconds to be felt and then released. If you find yourself in a spiral of emotion that's going on and on and on and on, it probably isn't just about the thing right in front of you. There's probably some buried old emotions stuffed down in you that needs space. And this is like, as we get comfortable holding space for ourselves and letting ourselves feel what we feel, express what's in us, and find people who are comfortable, whether that's friends or professionals, who are able to create, because you have to have safe space to really feel comfortable expressing and feeling what you feel and thinking what you think, and just being totally honest. But I do find that people generally are either more comfortable, like sad and angry has been a funny kind of case study for me. And the whole time I've been working with people, which has been over 20 years in different capacities. And I watch sad and angry. Usually most people are pretty comfy with one of those. And one of the first times I recognized this was in myself. I noticed, like, I'm comfortable with sad. I'm okay with sad. But I had been hardcore trained, not in my family system, but in my marriage to my son's dad, to be happy all the time. I could be raging mad inside, and I would be like, I am very mad. That's how I would express anger, like coming out of that marriage, because I felt so uncomfortable with the expression of anger. I had somehow bottled it up so hard. And when you bottle anger, what happens? Every once in a while, you're going to have a blow up. That's what generally happens. But I started watching people around me who had productive, like they could feel anger and knock out a wall to do reconstruction in their house, or scrub a tub, or do something that was like productive to move the anger through them. And I was like, oh, these are great ideas. I'm going to start trying this. And like cleaning is my favorite one now, because it's like, I am now comfortable feeling anger. I don't like feeling anger, but it's a necessary emotion. We all need to be comfortable with anger, sadness, fear.
And I remember having those conversations with you at some point, because we've been friends for so long now, that I'm like, I really want you to be angry. Do you remember saying that? And you're like, I just don't feel anger. I just don't feel angry. I'm like, well, I feel rage about what's happened to you. So,
and it was interesting too. I think you're referring to my childhood trauma when you say that. It's like for the
other things too.
Other things too. Yeah. It's like I could come into touch even with terror. I felt more terror about things than I did anger. But when I finally got to that place where the anger I had the capacity for it. I think that's what it was. And I felt safe enough. Like I was safe and supported, and I could allow myself to feel angry. It's still not my first go-to. It's just not the way I'm wired, but I am a lot more comfortable with it now. And I grew up in a house where we are comfortable expressing displeasure. Like, there wasn't a lot of fighting or yelling all the time, but there was the occasional like raised voice because someone was upset. Like anger was allowed in my home growing up. Yeah. So that was definitely like a later thing for me. And also as a woman and as a wife, learning that to, sit pretty and be calm and patient and not get angry, which was a misdirection, because anger is not bad. It is not undesirable. It's part of our natural spectrum of human emotions, and it gives us very important information.
Right. And I think one of the things I know I learned from you is, well, first of all, anger is a way to say it's a boundary, right? It means like if something's happening that's making you angry, it's stop now.
Yes. So the way when I feel angry, I ask myself, and I teach people to ask themselves, what's not okay? So usually when you feel angry, it's a little like engine light that says somebody's crossed over a boundary and is violating you, or something's not okay with you. And another way you can kind of angle that question is, what matters to me? Anger fuels action. So if someone is doing something that's not okay and you need to create a boundary, the anger is what gives you the fuel to create that boundary. Mm-hmm. If something is a passionate cause for you, it's like, this matters to me and I'm angry that this is happening. That anger fuels you taking action toward that passionate cause. Stand up for whatever you're angry about.
It can also be the fuel that, if we look at it, I think I've probably learned this stuff from you, but like freeze, if you're in a traumatic situation or a traumatic relationship, you can go to anger, or you can go to freeze, or you can go to flight. Mm-hmm. So if you've gone to freeze, that's like cold, right? Cold, you can't move. Mm-hmm. So the anger can be like the heat that moves you and gets you moving and makes you make that change that you have to take action in order to be safe. Like freezing is what you think would keep you safe as an example, a traumatic relationship, but it could be an incident too. Like you're in the middle of a traumatic incident where you need to move fast. So,
and anger as a nature, it's hot, it's physical, it needs to move. So here's the other thing I was going to say about emotions in general. They are emotions, energy in motion. I've been saying this for 20 years. Right. I know you've heard me say this.
Yeah.
They're meant to be transient. They come in. I like to think of them as a little 3-part. You feel them. And most people they get stuck in one of the 3 parts, or they're good at 2, but they forget about the 3rd. You feel them. A lot of people don't feel emotions. They think about them.
Yeah.
I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. And this is why. That's the processing part. And as humans, I think that generally is an important part of really getting an emotion to release. But I do think you can bypass the thinking about it. I think you can feel it and release it. I don't think you can think about it and release it. We are bodies. We are soma. We have to feel. We are meant to feel emotions. That's what they are. They're energy. And if you don't feel it, it's like the energy of that emotion hangs out in your field.
And in your
energy field.
Right.
And then over time, you have all these emotions hanging out in your energy field, and the energy field affects the matter in the field. That's your body.
Yeah.
So if you're not, the third part is you feel it, you process it, and you invite it to release. Because energy, or that energy isn't made to stay within us. And you know, if you don't do anything, if you just feel emotion and then you just kind of, okay, stuff it down, whether that's sadness or grief or fear, you're literally just collecting all this energy and carrying all this weight. And it's affecting your life, not just in a mental or emotional, like it's affecting your health. It's affecting everything. It's affecting your quality of life, your ability to make decisions, everything.
Yeah. And I think, you know, because we grew up, of course, in an era where we were trained we're told to not be emotional, not making a decision based on emotion, be rational. You're taught, I mean, you go to church and you're taught that, you know, anger's bad and that kind of thing. And I think vented anger, which is, you know, that's when someone is, you know, throwing punches or something like that at people, or screaming in rage at people because they're mad. A parent comes home from work, something was bad there, and starts screaming at everybody. Vented rage is bad.
Yes. So there's distortions of any emotion, and we're going to just stick with anger because we could do a whole dive on every one of them.
Right.
But rage would be a distortion of anger. Passive aggressive behavior, silent treatment. That's another distortion of anger. It's uncomfortable in a very different way. But emotion, again, is meant to be dealt with in-house. If you feel your emotion, process it, consider it, you're digesting the actual emotion, and then you're releasing it. Now you can interact around whatever that. I like to think of emotions as friends. They're informants. They give us information about what's going on in our world and the environment. And if you don't digest anger and then you go try to have a conversation, you're going to have an angry conversation and it's going to be tense. And the only thing the other person really hears is the anger. They may not even be able to hear what you're saying. And that causes them to get defensive or hurt or and we are all imperfect at this, you know, that
very imperfect.
There's mastery is continuing to try to engage with these emotions and in our intimate relationships, you know, finding a way back to love, finding a way back to forgiveness. Like that's true mastery, you know, trying to do our own work and digest the emotions. I find personally, like on social media, when people are really worked up about things, I feel social media has created this space in which people are just sort of venting anger a lot rather than digesting the anger and then talking about the passionate. Remember I said anger can fuel taking action toward a passion, something that matters to you.
Right.
But when you're venting, like you said, even with your voice, all people are hearing is the anger. So generally speaking, people who agree with you are going to hear what you're saying. People who don't know what you're talking about just feel like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of anger coming at me. Or like you said, vented anger. If you don't deal with your anger, it can come out sideways, you know, whether that's yelling at your kids or like you said, physical violence.
Or the other way where it's basically, you know, psychological abuse, you know, where it becomes very mental. I'm not going to physically show my anger. I'm just going to make you suffer. for anything that I feel like making you suffer for, by giving you the silent treatment, by being passive aggressive, by, just abandonment kind of thing. They're just going to abandon you. Whatever it is, all those things are also you not dealing with your anger well.
Yeah.
And people think they are. They're academic. Oh, I'm not. I don't rage. I just become sociopathic.
Well, and I want to clarify that I work on these things all the time in my life. I mean, I practice what I preach and with my clients.
Right.
So the things we're talking about, I mean, passive aggressive, for example. These are the kind of things that we have to get honest about if those things are showing up in little ways. That's not one of my personal go-tos, but I just know like, at least 80% of my clients, like there's that passive aggressive streak. And it's sometimes it's motivated by like compliance. Like I'm trying to be the nice person. I'm trying to be what, but when we can identify that's actually passive aggressive, and here would be a healthier alternative. And if you digest this anger and communicate in this way, you might actually create more intimacy and feel better than when you stay in this pattern. It's being able to recognize those patterns in our existence and then doing something about them. That's the fun of the kind of work I do.
Yeah. And no one, I don't know that anyone has it, well, maybe some of us do have it completely dialed in on anger, but I feel like the healthiest thing to do with anger is to do what you're saying, digest it quickly, realize what is making you angry, and then being able to speak what is making you angry in a way to the other person where you're not, where you're calm about what's, about the boundary that you need.
Yeah.
And, when there is something at stake, when you might lose a relationship, you might get screamed at, you might get hit, you might lose your job, you might lose the income. It's very hard to make the boundary because boundaries can cause real damage in your life. So that's, I think, why it's so hard to do it. And it's so easy to go to some of the other things like fawning or freezing or passive aggressive behavior or avoidance. Those are easier because then we won't necessarily take the hit, quote unquote, as quickly.
Yeah. I remember, in my own journey, so much information is more readily available now. In my own journey, when I first started understanding my nervous system, and people would talk about fight or flight. And I remember just thinking like, I don't really relate to either one of those. I'm kind of confused. And then probably 10 years in, finally, it hasn't been that long. Somebody started talking about freeze. The first time I heard that, I'm like, that feels familiar. I think I'm frozen. I think I've been frozen for decades. So let's talk about that for a minute. Fight is when, now, and I'm going to say sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. It's a state of arousal that your body goes, I'm going to move toward the thing that feels threatening and deal with it.
Yeah.
Flight is when your body goes, I'm going to get away from this thing that feels threatening. That's what feels safest. Freeze is when you feel like you've tried one of those, or you just know like nothing is going to work. And so you like an opossum, you go into freeze thinking that might be what keeps you alive. Right. Then years later, and not so distant past, they started talking about fawning, and it might be my favorite one. I'm like, now that I have mastered. And so I say that tongue in cheek because I think it's really important to recognize that in your journey of personal growth, it's really important to be able to realize like, that's a habit that I learned for survival. And it pops up every once in a while when I feel unsafe. Right. And fawning is basically people pleasing. It's my job to make sure everybody's happy and comfortable. And I'm going to contort myself into whatever position necessary to make sure you're good.
Right. To keep peace.
To keep the peace, to
don't
keep you happy.
Don't make it worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
We both grew up in the Midwest. We're good Midwestern women. We are going to comply, and
we're well trained. Darn it.
And, when you start, I think for me, I definitely feel like I'm at a level of mastery where if that shows up as an instinct, I recognize it immediately. And I'm like, oh, wow, I must be feeling a little bit unsafe right now because I can feel myself wanting to fawn to make the other person. And, you're kind of building them up or something. Here's the thing. I'm a naturally very complimentary, encouraging person. I want to reflect people's value to them. So that is something that I do just in my person. It's something that I do. So, but there's a difference when you recognize like, oh, wow, I'm feeling like fawning to stay safe. And I think just when you realize those moments can happen throughout your lifetime. This is one of the things I run into with clients all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm still dealing with this, which is why I'm making the comment. Like, I like to put myself out there on the plate sometimes and be like, yeah, you're going to keep dealing with this. Like, you were trained hardcore in this. It might take the next 30 years to be completely well. And I think we get better at choosing our surroundings and choosing people to do life with, as we're growing.
Or choosing to be alone.
Yes. Well, not alone. There's a lot of people to do life with. Yes. Yes.
But yeah. And I do want to bring up, like, we're not looking down on people who are in terrifying situations currently, or in an abusive relationship
where they
when you can't get out, right? So we're not looking down. We're both in a place right now we're in relative safety and have done years of processing and healing, both of us. So we feel the most dangerous time to leave an abusive relationship. Well, the most dangerous time is when you're leaving, right? That's what I'm trying to say. That's when people get killed. So, which is another reason why you step in with people. So if you've been through something and you might not be capable of protecting someone, but you might be capable of knowing what the signs are and when you might need to call police, when you might need to just show up and listen, when you might need to go, no worries, I understand what you were going through and now you're past it and come on back. Let's go talk. Let's whatever you need to process, which is usually shame. If someone has found themselves in an abusive relationship, the next step as they get out of it is feeling shame that they were ever in it, is what I've found.
Shame, confusion. There's so many. Yeah, there's so many. Yeah. Grief.
I know. I almost want to say that just in case anyone's listening going, what about, because we do look down at people who've lived through hellish situations like it's all their fault, instead of going, let's hold space for this and go, maybe not.
I don't look down on people in circumstances.
No, I know you
I
don't.
think that's one of
the
ways that I look at the world that is so different. And
right.
Honestly, I don't know. It blows my mind because I'm like, okay, anybody who's thinking that, have you never been through something really hard that you didn't actually plan on or call into your life? Like, I think it takes one kind of hard knock situation to realize, gosh, anything can happen to anybody. And compassion is a real key piece to being a human. I have a lot of compassion for humanness. Even choices we make or beliefs that we hold that later we go, oh, I wouldn't do that again. Like, I think there's so little room to judge when you've lived much time on the planet and you realize it's hard. It's hard to be in good alignment and make good choices. And that's what we want, right?
Yeah.
That's what I work with people to help people get into really good alignment, like really true about this is where I am. And here are ways that I'm functioning that are keeping me from really going where I want to go or creating what I want to create.
Yeah.
But no matter where you are, you can find your way from really hard circumstances into I am okay.
Yeah.
And I think about the number of times I've done that in my life, in my journey. And that is not a quick thing. That can take years to go from I am in this circumstance, I am not okay, to really do the work to cultivate I am okay in my body. And let's come back to this topic of listening and listening to your body. Like it takes a lot of listening to be able to take yourself from I'm not okay. Maybe that means getting out of circumstances. And I'm broadly talking about many different circumstances or an injury or an accident like I went through more recently in my life.
Or incredibly intense grief surrounding a traumatic loss.
Yes.
A relationship, which could be a physical. And however, if it's, even if they're alive, it can still be a traumatic loss. If they pass, then it's a traumatic loss. Mm-hmm. So that season of grief is another one.
Anything that makes me feel like I am not okay.
Yeah. Right.
Like I always have emphasized our circumstances do not define us.
Right.
But sometimes it feels like they do. And I think when it feels like your circumstances define you and you're like, I can't get out of this, I feel so stuck. Mm-hmm. To me, that's when you may need some support to go from there to I'm listening to my body. Let's talk about some ways that you can listen to your body. I think, like one way, even just, just kind of like doing a scan and imagining you could feel into like, where am I holding things? Where do I hold tension? Or if there's something you're feeling, where do I feel that in my body? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that can be, you can be like, I have no idea. So don't be stressed if you can't figure it out. But if there's an emotion or something going on in your life and you're just like, where do I feel that in my body? And just giving some attention to that space, allowing for emotion is one of the ways to listen to your body. Like, what do I really need right now in this moment? So when you're not okay, or it feels like you're not okay, or you feel stuck and you can't even see to a brighter future, you can't even see a light at the end of the tunnel. You don't even know if you're going to be able to create one, but something inside of you believes there's more. It's about all you need. Or maybe I could partner with someone who could believe more for me. Like all you need is that little generation of like, I'm determined to find a little bit more. And, you don't look ahead to the end when you feel not okay. You look in and you go, what do I need right now? Do I need a walk? Do I need a glass of water? Do I need to put lemon in my water because it makes me drink it? Do I need to talk to a friend because I feel lonely and my heart aches? Do I need to connect with someone? Do I need to put my feet on the earth and ground myself and feel the electromagnetic frequency of earth coming through my body, whether or not you feel that it's happening, and stabilize myself? Do I need to be in nature? So go on a hike. I couldn't drive for 7 years. So some of my default things that I did to be okay were taken away from me. So I created a garden around me. I started gardening and planting flowers. And so that for me, deadheading my flowers and watering them is my meditation. I don't put my earbuds in. I really tune in and be in nature during that time. Yeah, there's so many ways in which we're just like the basics. Do I need a nap?
Right.
Yeah, just
Sometimes sleep will help a lot.
yes.
Unless you're
Almost
totally in freeze in which you're sleeping too much. But
right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So once we get to that place of I'm okay, then there's the next of like, okay, now from here, things are changed, whether your body has changed or someone's no longer in your life through a divorce or death or, whatever has happened that has changed you. Then there's that path of how do I build from here? So that's the place where it gets a little bit fun because you get to explore what am I actually doing in my day-to-day, in this mind, in this body? And how do I want to use my time intentionally? So this is the listening in order to create the life that you really want.
Absolutely.
When you're doing that for yourself, that's when you're able to do that for other people.
Right.
Hold space for what people are going through.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this, and I think it's important to bring this up when we talk about this concept of holding space. It's a listening without judgment. It's a listening and a being present, fully present, without feeling like you need to fix anything.
Right.
With my friends, with clients, it's a little bit of a different dance, but with my friends, a lot of times if someone is expressing something really hard to me as a friend, I will say, tell me where you are. Do you need me just to hold space for you to feel this and be here with you? Do you want to brainstorm some ideas for solutions? And sometimes people are like, I don't know, both,
Right.
But if you don't want solutions, it actually hurts when someone shows up with solutions. Like, I just want you to listen to me or hold me or whatever. And so I think even being brave enough to say, tell me how I can support you. I can help you think about ways to make this better, or I can just listen and let you feel what you're feeling and be here with you as you feel it. That to me is what holding space is. I am okay with you feeling whatever you feel. And the important thing here is, let's come back to this concept of boundaries.
Yes, boundaries.
And yes, and because it all goes together. It's not, let's say you have a friend who's in an ongoing, long time, difficult situation, and he or she is doing everything they can to heal the situation, to get better, to find help, to resource themselves.
Right.
And you are one piece of the puzzle of support for them.
Right.
You are not responsible for them. You are holding space for them within your own capacity. So you have to not martyr yourself or feel like you have an obligation to always show up every single time whenever someone needs you. This is part of that codependence that we're, I think, trying to find the balance in. It is okay. Let's say you had a 14-hour day at work.
Right.
And you're crawling into bed because you are completely done. And you have nothing left.
Right.
You are probably not resourced to sit on the phone for an hour and listen to a friend.
Right.
And so I think it's important, for us to have healthy expectations of one another in our relationships. Mm-hmm. If we have more than one person, we want to resource our own lives with more than one person, whether that's a professional person, a couple of friends that we feel comfortable talking to. This all takes time. I mean, it's not
Absolutely.
To find those safe people that we know we can, be so vulnerable with.
And, I want to just kind of insert here too. It's like both Kara and I, as we were dealing with physical issues, we have had different things we've dealt with in our lives, or relationships or how that's affected us. We have paid a lot of money to go have professionals and work with professionals, both to help physical health, mental health, emotional health. So we are not in this thing at all saying, the only thing you do is go find some good friends.
No
Friends
way.
are a piece of the puzzle. Even more importantly, if you are the person who is, you're not the professional. You're just a person who's in someone's life, whether it's a relative, friend, or someone that came in your path that you want to help. You have to know that you have to have boundaries, and you have to have proper expectations that you are not trained professionally to help this person. So that what you can do is limited. It's still powerful what you can do to a certain degree, but we are not in this thing saying it's, hold space for people and then everything's going to get fixed because you did the right thing.